Hey, what's going on, everyone? How you guys doing? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry that I'm not on camera today. My computer is having a lot of issues with the camera, and the audio quality from the last couple of videos was off. So I'm just going to be off camera for this one. This is a bit of a hot take, I'll fully admit. This is something that I've kind of been mulling around in my head for a couple of days, and I just wanted to put it out there and see what your general thoughts on it are, because I'm sure a lot of you are going to be like, no! But I am asking the questions. Should movies start on home video and streaming before going to theaters? Now, the likelihood of this ever actually being a reality is very minimal, but hear me out as to why I think it could actually work a little bit better. We have to come to the realization theaters are a dying breed. They're not really opening new ones. All they're doing is investing in large premium format screens. I've talked about this before at length. I'll talk about it again. But the audiences aren't necessarily showing up in the ways that you think that they would. All right, movie ticket sales are down overall. This was evidenced over the course of the summer, or even though Superman did like over 600, I think in 20 million, its ticket sales were way less than even Man of Steel back in 2013, even though that did ultimately do more money. I'm not trying to make this like a fight video or whatever. I'm just using it as a general comparison. Fewer and fewer people are going to the theaters. More and more people are waiting for home video. They're watching them on home video. I got a message from a listener last night who watched Fantastic Four finally. Even though the movie came out back in July and it's been almost 3 months, he was like, I finally saw Fantastic Four and goddamn, that was a great movie. Did the critics even watch the same movie I did? And I'm like, no, they didn't, because critics are critics, but they still saw it in theaters. This guy waited to watch it at home with his family. There's a lot of people that are doing that. I keep saying this, the cost is too damn high. And so you're not really creating a FOMO when you have a movie that's coming out and then there's a 45-day window on streaming. Or if it's a movie that's a failure, then it just comes to streaming or digital a lot faster. I keep saying this. Movie theaters are no longer about making money for the studios. They are absolutely an advertising page, a marketing plan for streaming and digital releases. That's just a reality. That's just a reality. Universal has openly admitted that they have made over $1 billion on films that they've released digitally while films are still in theaters over the course of the past 5 years. And I'm sure at this point, because that number was like from 2 years ago, and I'm sure by now it's well over that, especially with like Wicked and Mario and everything else. They know how to turn that into a business, and they know that the business works, and people will spend the money to get those films on home video. So it really does make me ask the question, should there be a flipping of the script? Here's why. Look at K-pop Demon Hunters. I think that's a great example. For me, it's my favorite movie of the year. I think it's a lot of people's favorite movie of the year. I had a 55-year-old woman last night as a passenger who we were talking about it, and it's her favorite movie of the year, predominantly because her nephew loves it, and he watches it all the time. Therefore, she watches it all the time. And I said, do you think the movie would have been as popular if it went to theaters first? And she thought for a second and she said, no, I don't think it would be. And I'm like, that's my point. That's what I've been saying as well, but that's ultimately my point. K-pop Demon Hunters going to Netflix, blowing up on Netflix, getting in on the TikTok stuff. It was a fluke. It wouldn't have happened had it gone to theaters. And there might be people that are like, no, it would have done more if it went to theaters. It would have been like a $3, $4, $5 billion movie if it went to theaters. No, it would not have happened like that. The movie would have came and went and still been through Sony, and it still would have been on Netflix after a bit of time. After a few months, it would have been on Netflix. I mean, hell, I Know What You Did Last Summer, which came out in July, is already on Netflix. So it's, there's all that. But K-pop Demon Hunters would have not done as well had it gone to the theaters first. So when Netflix finally put it in theaters in a 2-day, 2-screening event that ultimately ended up selling out so many more screenings that they had to add over, like, I think it was like 1,500 showings or something over the course of those 2 days. It made $20 million. It was the highest grossing film that weekend. Then they pulled it. Now they're bringing it back again for Halloween. So they created the FOMO. So if you missed out on K-pop Demon Hunters when it was in theaters back in August, you can now see it again for Halloween. There's another movie that they're re-releasing for Halloween. I forget which one it is. But right now, it seems like a lot of these theaters are just showing older films. You log in and it's like, just a couple weeks ago, it was like the 25th anniversary of Battle Royale. Not playing anywhere near me, unfortunately. And, I couldn't go see it. So I'm like looking around trying to find the 4K online, to go buy the 4K. At least then I can watch, a nice high-res version of it. But my argument here is that if you had access to a movie first and you were able to build the conversation, build the hype, build the momentum, and not every movie would fall under this, by the way, make no mistake. This is not like a one size fits all thing. But if you were to put all that stuff together and let it kind of roll out on social media, roll out naturally, gain an audience naturally, and then put it in theaters without having to do the marketing spend, could you find a way to make it more profitable? And I think in some cases, the answer to that is absolutely yes. Now, would these be like more family-based films? Yes. Maybe religious-based films like Sound of Freedom? Absolutely. And there's a lot there I want to say about Sound of Freedom too. That's a whole other video. Because their marketing plan was excellent and it should be adopted by everybody. Again, I'll talk about that. Quality of the movie aside, I will talk about that at some point. But movies on streaming have access to the instant audience, right? It completely does away with the, I'll wait for streaming mentality. The FOMO of going to the theaters is really no longer there. Movies themselves are largely chided by critics or hated on by fans. You get a couple a year that do really well, but a lot just kind of fall by the wayside. A lot doesn't go and get seen until it hits streaming. How many movies have you said, it failed in theaters, but it's going to do really well on streaming? As if you should start with that mentality. Like, if it failed in theaters, but it did well on streaming, how about put it on streaming and then see if it can do well on streaming and then see if it can translate over to being seen on the theaters? Movies, theaters specifically, are going to become more of an exhibition venue than anything else. Okay, think of it like concert halls. We're going to be seeing a lot more of that. Where I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some of these theaters get rid of many of their auditoriums and merge them into one big one. So they'll put the big movies on there to fill more people in per screening, but it will rotate out like a concert hall. 1 week it will be, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Next week it will be, Lil Wayne, then Green Day, whatever, right? People will get the opportunity to go to these different venues, but they'll have those FOMO moments. Because right now what we're seeing is just a whole bunch of theaters that are not full. And they haven't been full for years, and they're not going to get full again because of streaming. So why not flip the script? Why not create the demand for theatrical on home video, right? Now, but it's got to be a specific kind of movie. K-pop Demon Hunters is a big one. That one is an example I can use. You've got Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which is coming to some theaters for awards consideration, but then it's going to be on Netflix, and it's a limited release. You had Chris Hemsworth, Extraction and Extraction 2. Both of those are absolutely films that should be watched on the big screen as many times as you can. They're excellent. There's a lot of good streaming movies, whether it is over on Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon, Apple. There's a bunch of them out there that deserve to be seen on the big screen and that could be seen with an audience. And it's really about creating those experiences and then translating them over to the big screen. One of my favorite all-time screening events was when Fathom did a one-night screening of The Boondock Saints. That movie came out in theaters in the late 90s, did like nothing, ended up at a Blockbuster Video where some college kids found it, started sharing the movie around. That started being rented out and rented out and rented out. And then before you know it, like everyone and their mother's like, hey, have you seen Boondock Saints? Like, holy shit. And then Fathom finally said, okay, let's do a screening of it. And the damn thing sold out across the country. Made more money probably in like that particular like event than it had made in forever. And then that probably pushed home video sales of Boondock Saints. And that's actually one of the things that got Boondock Saints 2 greenlit, was the popularity of the film that it found on home video. Streaming is the new home video. We don't share VHSs or DVDs, we share links. But building that community of fans that want to watch something and then find a way to go see it collectively together in a space, that will be your aphrodisiac. That will be what gets people to go to the theaters because they're going to see it with like-minded people. That's one of the reasons why early preview screenings are big for Marvel films, because you're seeing it with the diehard fans. The general public sucks when it comes to watching movies. We all know this. That's not a new take or an even interesting one. But if you can find a way to collectively create the environment to have movies that were popularized on streaming come out for maybe one night, 2-night events, get that money. The studios and the companies will make the money. The theaters make some money. And then they don't spend as much money on marketing. So then they don't have to, that ends up like lessening the overall cost of the film, write-offs notwithstanding. It is time to take a new approach to how we popularize films. And it isn't a theater first approach. And again, many of you are going to disagree with me, and that's absolutely okay, right? I get that. I do understand that entirely. But at the same time, I think many of you will probably end up agreeing with me. And if you do, let me know. And if not, well, I guess